The door creaked open. His boots paused on the threshold. The kitchen broom was moving, steady, back and forth. She didn't turn around. A black pot steamed on the stove. The oven ticked. Cornbread. He stepped inside. Wood groaned under his weight. You lost? No. You know this ain't your home. She kept sweeping. It's cleaner than you left it. He blinked. Dust motes floated through light, but the floor was scrubbed, table set with mismatched plates, coffee in the pot, still hot. Who told you to come in? The door was open. It wasn't. It is now. She turned. Face plain. No makeup. Hair pulled tight. Apron over jeans. Her eyes were soft and flat like water in a rusted trough. He took his hat off. Not polite, just confused. You bring that food? I made it. You always break into men's houses and bake? Only the ones with empty fridges and dead plants. He stepped closer. You cook for charity? No. Survival. He looked at the table. Bread, beans, 2 spoons. She'd planned for company. Are you feeding me? I'm feeding whoever walks in. That's bold. Starving's bolder. He sat. She didn't smile. Name? You first. James. She nodded. I'm not here to steal. You're here uninvited. She filled his plate anyway. Sat across from him. Didn't eat. Just watched. Are you expecting me? No, just figured someone would come back eventually. This ranch has been empty a year. Not anymore. Silence. The clock ticked too loud. He chewed slowly, swallowed hard. You cook like my mother. I don't know your mother. She's dead. I know. He stared. How? You walk like grief. It's loud. He pushed his plate away. You stayin' long. She stood, gathered his plate, scraped the leftovers into a tin. As long as the roof don't leak. It leaks. She looked up. I'll patch it. You a roofer, too. It used to be a lot of things. Now you're a squatter. She raised one eyebrow. You gonna call the law? No. Why not? He leaned back. The chair creaked. Sheriff, don't come out here anymore. Then I'm safe. She washed the dishes. He watched her hands. No rings, no trembling. You sleep here too? Barn. Too cold. It's clean. He looked toward the window, sunset bleeding through cracked glass. You brought anything else with you? No. No bag. No need. Are you lying? She dried her hands. Are you? He didn't answer. She walked past him, the broom in her hand again. Swish, swish. Why this place? I felt forgotten. I'm good with forgetting. You talk strange. I've been quiet too long. The room dimmed. He lit the lamp. She didn't flinch at the match flare. The place still smells like death. I boiled vinegar. Didn't help. It won't. He stood, took the empty cup from the table. I washed it myself. Water is cold. You ever kill someone? She didn't stop sweeping. Yes. Who? A man who touched my daughter. You got kids? Not anymore. He dried the cup, placed it back upright. You running? I'm resting. You sure? No. He turned, looked down the hallway. His mother's bedroom closed tight. Don't go in there. I already did. You see her Bible? Still open. Psalm 44. He nodded once. Rested on that verse before the fire. I know. You read it? I remember it. You don't forget that kind of smoke. No. The broom stilled. You want me gone? He paused. No. She sat again. Poured 2 more coffees. They drank in silence. Outside, a wind picked up. The porch screen flapped loose. You fixed the screen too? Yes. You do all this in one day? Just most of it. He rubbed his jaw. Days of stubble catching in his palm. You sleep inside tonight. I'll stay in the barn. You don't have to. She looked at him. Unreadable. I know. The fire in the stove popped once sharp. He flinched. She didn't. You been through worse than this? Yes. He reached for the bread again, broke it in half, offered some. She took it this time, ate slowly. I won't ask again who you are. Good. But this ain't charity. No. You cook. You clean. You don't lie. I don't. And you tell me the truth if I ask. I will. He finished the bread. Then we're square. For now. He looked around the room. It smelled like something living again, like something halfway whole. "You need anything?" "Just time." "You got that." She stood, walked toward the back door, broom in hand. The floor creaked under her again. Same board, same sound. He didn't follow, just watched. The house felt strange with two shadows in it, and for the first time in a long time, he let the lamp burn through the night. The wind rattled the barn doors sometime past midnight. James sat up in bed, boots already half on. The house was quiet, stove out, her cot in the kitchen empty. He grabbed the lantern from the wall hook, lit it with shaking fingers. The flame flared. He stepped outside, the cold bit harder tonight. He walked slow, dirt crunching underfoot, light swaying. Inside the barn, something moved, soft, quick. He raised the lantern. "Who's in here?" No answer. He stepped forward. Light found a corner of hay. Something shifted again. "Show yourself." Nothing. He moved closer, raised the light higher. 5 children, curled up together, thin, silent, dirt on their cheeks, eyes wide and wet. They didn't run, didn't beg, just stared. He blinked, lowered the lantern. "Yours?" Behind him, her voice, calm. "They're hungry. You brought 5 kids onto my land." No, they followed. They know how to follow quiet. They've had practice. He turned, held the light toward her, her face unreadable. "You could have said something. You didn't ask." He looked back at the kids. One sucked a thumb. One had a busted lip. One held a piece of wire like it meant something. "They sick?" "Not anymore." "They speak?" "Not lately." "They eat?" "Twice a day, when I can find enough." This ranch ain't a shelter. It's the first place they've slept without crying. He crouched. The kids didn't flinch. "You got names?" None of them answered. He stood. "They got names?" "They forgot 'em." "That ain't normal." "No, it isn't." He turned to her. "This some underground thing. You collecting strays. I'm keeping them breathing." He looked around the barn. Nothing but hay, broken tools, and silence. "How long you been here?" "3 nights." "With them?" "Yes." "And you thought sweeping my floor and making cornbread would cover this?" "No." "But you did it anyway." "Yes." "Why?" "Because I had enough flour." He walked to the corner, kicked aside a loose board. Mice scattered. "You gonna fix that too?" "If I stay." "You planning to?" "Depends." "On what?" "On whether you light the barn on fire or not." He didn't smile. One of the kids coughed. "Rough. Dry. You been giving 'em water?" "What I find in the troughs." He sighed, turned back toward the house. "Bring 'em in." "They're fine here." "They ain't." She hesitated. "You sure?" "No." She knelt, whispered something. The kids stood slowly, barefoot, moving like they'd done it 100 times. He held the door open. One by one they stepped past him, didn't look up, didn't speak. Inside, he lit the stove again. "Sit." They sat on the floor, backs against the wall. She set out bowls, heated up beans, cut what was left of the bread. He poured water into cups. They ate like ghosts. No noise, no chewing, just movement. "You feed 'em like this every night?" "When I can." "And before this?" "Sometimes nothing." He watched the youngest. A girl. "Maybe 4. She stared straight ahead, chewing slow. Fingers wrapped around the spoon like it'd disappear. He knelt. "What's her name?" "Whichever one you give her." He blinked. "You serious?" "They were numbered where they came from." "Numbered?" She didn't answer. "You been running long?" "Long enough to forget where we started." "Where was it?" "Doesn't matter." "It does to me." "Why?" "Because they're sleeping under my roof." She looked at the kids. "I'll tell you when they do." "They haven't slept?" "Not really." He stood, looked down the hallway, thought about the spare room. "Got 2 beds in the back. Closets are full of moths. Sheets are clean enough. They're used to floors." "They don't have to be." She nodded, said nothing else. He walked past them, opened the bedroom door, lit a second lamp, came back. "They'll sleep better in here." The kids didn't move until she did. Then they followed, quiet. He watched the door close behind them. The fire popped in the stove. He poured a drink, sat down. Outside, the wind had stopped. Inside, nothing stirred. Just 5 bowls, 5 cups, and 1 empty seat across the table. The sound of hooves slowed near the gate. James stepped off the porch before the knock came. Sheriff Cadell swung down from his saddle, brushed dust from his jacket. "You got coffee on? You riding for social or business?" Cattle scanned the house. Long, slow. His hand lingered near his holster. "Ridge Creek's missing 5 kids. That sound like business to you?" James didn't answer, just opened the door. The sheriff stepped in. The air inside was warm, bread cooling on the counter. He sniffed. "Smells like you got help." James poured 2 cups. "Sit or stand, doesn't matter to me." The sheriff stayed standing. "You hear about them kids ran off from Ridge Creek?" "I ain't heard a thing." "You sure? You want coffee or not?" The sheriff took the cup, drank, didn't thank him. James stayed quiet. "You got mouths in here?" "Plenty of mice." Cadell walked slow to the window, pulled the curtain an inch, peeked out. "You patched this glass yourself?" "It was broke." "Was it?" He turned, eyes falling on the woman standing in the kitchen doorway. She held a towel, face blank. "You her husband?" "No." "You her anything?" "No." "You got a name, ma'am?" She didn't speak. The sheriff sipped again. "She mute." "She listens." "That a talent now?" "Round here it is." She stepped forward, set a fresh plate of cornbread between them, returned to the kitchen. The sheriff watched her go. "How long she been here?" "Few days." "She got papers?" "You askin' for the state now?" "I'm askin' for the truth." "She sweeps, cooks, don't lie." "She bring anything with her?" "No." "No trunk? No bag?" Just the silence. The sheriff smiled, only with his mouth. "You remember a girl named Eula May?" James blinked. "That's supposed to mean something." "Used to live near Ridge Creek. Vanished 12 years back. Folks say she was seen again. Taller, meaner." "You believe in ghosts?" "I believe in patterns." Cadell finished the cup, set it down harder than needed. "She your problem now, James?" "You see a problem?" He looked toward the hallway. Listened. Too long. "There's a sound in this place, like secrets. Or wind." Cadell tapped the table. "You find anything strange, you bring it to me. I find something strange, I'll bury it." The sheriff stood, straightened his coat. "You always had that mouth. And you always had that badge." He tipped his hat to no one in particular and stepped outside. The door clicked shut. James didn't move until he heard the hooves fade into dust. She came back in. "You okay?" She nodded. "He saw too much. He saw what he wanted. You sure he didn't smell the kids?" "He smelled cornbread." He sighed, took the cups to the sink. That night, after the house had settled and the wind calmed, he pulled the rug near the hearth. Loose boards. He'd always meant to fix them. He pried them up slow. Dust. Spiderwebs. One small box wrapped in cloth. Inside, a ledger, worn leather, his mother's handwriting. He sat cross-legged on the floor, lantern beside him. Names, columns, dates, notes in the margins. Eula May, delivered Joab Carter, not paid Mara Stills, returned. Then one name scratched out so hard the paper tore. He traced the edges with his thumb, the ink beneath still visible in parts. He didn't say the name out loud, didn't have to. The cook appeared in the doorway. Arms folded. "You found it." "You knew." "I felt it." "This your name?" "No." "But you know who it was?" "Yes." "Why's it crossed out?" "Because she screamed too loud." He closed the book, set it in his lap. "You gonna lie to me now?" "No." "You worked for her?" "I served under her. My mother wasn't a general." "She thought she was." "She kept records." "Of what was taken, of what was sold." "She was a midwife." "She was a broker." He rubbed his face. "You ever tell anyone?" "Who would listen?" He opened the ledger again, looked at the ink, the clean loops, the small crosses beside some names. "Why'd you come here?" "Because you're the only one left who might not run." "You were wrong. You're still here." He stood, walked to the fireplace, ledger in hand, held it over the flame, then pulled it back. "No." "You want to keep it?" "I want to know who I was born to." She stared at him. "You really don't know." He shook his head. She walked away. He sat at the table until morning, the book closed tight in front of him, as if it might open on its own and say something he wasn't ready to hear. The mornings were quiet, but not peaceful. They moved like shadows, ate slow, never asked for more. The youngest boy started drawing in ash. He sat by the hearth, 2 fingers dipped in soot. First, a box, then lines of fire, then a woman face down. Red smeared across her back. James stepped closer. "That's not a game, son." The boy didn't flinch, just kept drawing. Another figure appeared beside the house. Taller, no face, just a black circle where the head should be. The cook watched from the table, hands still. "You seen that before?" "Every night." James crouched. "What's this here?" The boy looked at him. No words, just pointed at the fire, then at the woman, then covered his eyes. James stood. They dreaming it or living it? She didn't answer. That night, she put the kids down in the back room. No lullabies, just blankets and silence. She didn't sleep much anymore, knife under her pillow. James saw her tuck it when she thought no one was looking. "You expecting trouble?" "I never stopped." He leaned in the door frame. "You think they're remembering something?" "They never forgot." "The fire?" "Worse." "You know what happened." "Bits." "Tell me." She looked past him, toward the closed room. There was a place, not a home, not a school. They called it something else. "What?" "Sanctuary." He almost laughed. Didn't. "What was it really?" "A cage." The wind hit the window hard. Something creaked in the attic. He stared at the drawing still smeared on the hearth. "You ever see that man? The one with no face?" "Yeah. Once." "You remember him?" "I remember his ring." He looked at her. "Ring. Big. Silver. Keys on it." He sat down slow. "Keys to what?" "Every room, every bed, every mouth." He didn't speak. The fire in the stove cracked. She rubbed her wrists. "When I said I'd served under your mother, I didn't mean housekeeping. She sent kids there? She built it." The boy's drawing stayed through the next day. No one cleaned it. The other kids didn't talk, just glanced at the soot and walked around it. Like it was still hot. That night, James couldn't sleep. He stepped outside, watched the fields, lit a cigarette. The barn creaked. The wind was wrong. Back inside, he heard the girl crying. He opened the door. She was sitting up, eyes wide. "What is it?" She looked at the window. "Tell me. He's coming." "Who?" "The man with keys." He crouched by the bed. "You see him?" She nodded. "Where?" "Under the trees." He stood fast, ran to the front door, opened it. Just dark, just the same old trees. He stepped out, barefoot, cold in the dirt. Nothing moved, but something felt off. He came back in, locked every door, got the hammer, the nails. Started boarding the windows. "What are you doing?" she asked, giving them a night without looking over their shoulder. She joined him, hammered in silence. By morning, every window was covered. The kids didn't ask why. The cook swept around the ash, never over it. James leaned by the door. "You think he's real?" "Yes." "You think he's coming?" He never stopped. He nodded. The boy drew again that afternoon. Same faceless man. This time holding a ring of keys dangling over a girl's head. No one said a word. The fire stayed low that night. No one wanted dreams. The pump groaned like it had lungs. James yanked the rope hard. The bucket rose slow, scraping sides. When it hit the lip, he smelled it before he saw it. Sludge, black and thick, rope wet and rotting. He tipped the bucket. The liquid hit the dirt with a slap. Flies came quick. The cook stood behind him. "You're well cursed, or just neglected." He wiped his hands on his jeans. "Same thing out here." He pulled again. Just more sludge. "You seen this before?" "Not that color." "What color should water be?" "Not grief." He poured it again. The ground didn't even soak it. "I'll check the creek." "Too far, too dry. We got 5 kids and half a jug left." She turned toward the barn. "There's another well." "Where?" "Behind it." "I never saw one." "You weren't looking." He grabbed the shovel, walked the edge of the barn. Dry grass cracked under his boots. It took him an hour to find the stone ring, covered in vines, bricked tight. He brushed the dirt away with his hand. Flat red clay packed into the cracks. "This yours?" "No," she said. "It was here before me." He ran his hand along the stone. No rope, no handle. "Someone sealed it." "For a reason." He stepped back, looked at her. Kids don't go near it. They shouldn't. They scared. They remember. He stared at it. Square frame. Low wall. No markings. You want me to break it open? No. You think it's worse than sludge? Yes. The girl peeked from the barn, eyes wide. He waved her back inside. That night, he couldn't sleep. The wind blew through the cracks again, carried a smell like copper and wet leaves. He sat on the porch with a lantern, heard nothing but the creak of his own bones. Inside, the cook moved, barefoot, slow. She sat across from him, didn't speak at first. You believe in ghosts? I believe in what don't stay buried. Same thing. She looked toward the dark edge of the barn. I know what's buried under it. What? Women. He didn't ask how she knew. You see them? No. Then how? I helped dig one of the holes. His fingers tapped the rim of the cup. You work there too. Not by choice. You dig a well full of women? One at a time. You ever report it? There wasn't a place to report it to. What were their names? I don't know. Why'd they end up there? Because someone wanted them forgotten. He stood, looked out toward the barn. I want to see. Don't. I need to. You won't sleep after. I already don't. He lit another lantern, walked through the dry grass again. She followed. The air near the well was colder. Still, he touched the bricks, pried one loose. Then another. The clay crumbled easy, like it was waiting. The kids watched from the loft window. Silent. After 4 bricks, he stopped. Smell hit him like a punch. He dropped the lantern. It didn't break. He leaned forward just enough, held his breath, looked down. Dark. Still. Something shifting. Not water. Not alive. He stepped back. What is it? Hair. He turned. I saw hair. Don't pull it. I wasn't going to. She stared down, voice thin. They never floated right. You want me to cover it again? Do you? He didn't answer. They sat on the porch until morning. Neither spoke again. The lantern burned out slow. Like it too. Didn't want to see any more. James saw the dust trail before he heard the horse. Straight line from town. No wagons, just one rider. He stepped off the porch as Sheriff Cadell rode up, papers tucked under his arm. You bring coffee again? Not this time. Shame. Cadell dismounted, slapped dust from his coat, and held the papers out. James didn't take them. What's that? Warrant. For what? Harboring fugitives. James wiped his hands on his jeans. You think they're fugitives? I don't think. I know. You ever think about what made them run? That ain't my job. What is your job? Keeping law. Then start with whoever took their names. Cadell's jaw tightened. You got 5 kids in there. 1 don't speak, 1 don't blink. That don't raise your hairs. What raised mine was the way they flinch when boots get too close. Cadell didn't move. You let me in. No. I could come back with men. You could. And a badge. You still wearing one. Cadell stepped forward, lower now. You want this house burned down again? James looked him dead in the eye. You want that badge torn off your chest. The wind picked up between them. Cadell smiled. Tell the woman I remember her. I'll do that. The sheriff left. Didn't look back. Inside, the kids were lined up at the table. No one spoke. James tossed the papers into the stove. The cook didn't flinch. What did he say? Said he remembers you. She poured water. I remember him too. You ever cross paths? Not directly. Indirectly? He used to bring wine to the house. Kept quiet, watched too long. Whose house? She didn't answer. That evening, the wind changed. James stepped outside and smelled copper. Dirt. He found the dead bird on the step. Wings out, neck twisted. He picked it up by the feet. You see this? She nodded. They leave messages now. They always did. What's it say? One's gone. He turned toward the barn. All 5 weren't there, just 4. Oldest boy missing. Room empty. Blanket folded. Window cracked. James saw the handprint on the sill. Small, smudged. He didn't say anything for a minute. You think he ran? No. You think they took him? Yes. You sure? She didn't look at him. He wouldn't leave his sister. James stepped back, grabbed the rifle from the nail. I'll track. No, he's out there, and you'll get yourself shot for what? A child with no name. He's got a face. He headed toward the pasture. She followed. Tell me now, who are you really? I told you. Not all of it. She stopped near the well. I was his cook. Whose? The governor. James turned. You worked in the house? I lived in it. You were staff? I was his wife. He froze. You married him? I was sold to him. She sat on the ground like her legs gave out. I was 16. He liked his food, hot, and his girls quiet. James didn't move. He hurt you? She nodded once. Before or after he married you? Before. During. After. What happened to him? I poisoned him. Silence held between them. How? Foxglove. Boiled in honey. You sure he's dead? I watched him stop breathing. James looked toward the tree line. You think the sheriff knows? They all know. His brothers. His son. They just pretend. You think they took the boy? I think they're reminding me. He paced in a tight circle. This land cursed or just full of liars. Same thing out here. They walked back to the house. The kids were quiet. The little girl clutched the broken spoon she never used. James opened every drawer, checked the locks, set traps by the barn. That night, they burned the sheets. The boy's bed stripped clean. Smoke curled up through the chimney like something exhaled. Nobody prayed. Nobody cried. The girl drew in ash again. This time, it was a boy with his mouth sewn shut. The cook swept around it slow. Didn't speak. James nailed another board over the window. The house breathed like it was watching. He found it while she slept. The hem on her left sleeve had come loose. Frayed edge. Thread broken. He reached for the sewing kit. Just meant to mend it. The cloth folded out slow, stitched on the inside. Not words. Lines. Thin black ink. Faded with sweat and time. A map. He laid it flat on the table. Roads, creeks, corners marked in red thread. Names next to them. Helen, Josie, Clara's gate. He didn't hear her wake. You were looking through my clothes. I was fixing your sleeve. You find anything worth stealing? I found this. She didn't flinch. You running a ring? No. Looks organized. It is. You hiding others? I'm keeping them alive. He leaned closer. This one here, Clara's gate. That a real town? Used to be. What's there now? Root cellar and a woman named Annie who don't speak English but knows how to hide a girl in 10 seconds. And Josie. Chicken farm, big coop. Kids stay warm. Helen. Church basement, locked from the inside. Keys in the hymn book. He pointed at a crossroad stitched with red. What's this one? Doesn't exist. Then why mark it? For the ones who didn't make it. He stared at the cloth. This yours? No. Then whose? Everyone's. You pass this along? To women who don't ask questions. How many? Enough. You trust them? They don't have time to lie. He folded the cloth. You ever lose one? Yes. Where? Clara's gate. Winter. She froze before the woman found her. He poured coffee, handed her a cup. You ever think about quitting? I do it because I can't stop. Why here? She looked up. Why this ranch? Because you don't scare easy. That's not a compliment. It's why they're still breathing. He looked out the window. The barn door creaked open in the wind. You ever train them? No. You ever lie to them? Only about the ending. He unfolded the cloth again, pointed at another name. Who's Rena? Used to be a midwife. Now she makes bread and buries men. You trust her? With my life. The girl walked in, rubbing her eyes. She saw the cloth froze. It's okay, the cook said. He knows now. The girl sat on the floor. Drew shapes in the dust with her toe. She's seen this before. They all have. James sat down slow. You stitched this. Parts. The red thread? For the dead. You mark every loss? Everyone I remember. He set the cloth aside. You ever want revenge? I used to. What changed? Now I want them forgotten. That's darker than revenge. She sipped slow. It's safer. He looked down at his hands, scars across the knuckles. What's it mean if I help? That you'll be hunted. What if I already am? Then you got nothing to lose. He walked to the drawer, took out a piece of chalk. Kneeling on the floor, he drew a new line on the map. Through his land. She watched. Quiet. You sure? He marked an X near the barn. This is the smokehouse. You still got it standing. Just barely. Cold enough. Dark enough. He turned to her. You ever carried a gun? Yes. You any good with it? Better when I'm scared. He nodded. You will be. She folded the cloth slow, pressed it to her chest. You just made yourself part of it. I already was. The wind picked up outside. She looked toward the door. We'll need another name. For what? This place. He thought a second. Call it the break. She raised an eyebrow. Why? Because it's the first time anything stopped chasing. The girl smiled. That night, he sharpened his knife and bled a line across the barn wall. A second trail. In red, one they wouldn't find on any map. They came quiet. No flags. No voices. Just 4 riders in unmarked coats, dusk at their backs. James saw them before they reached the fence, watched from the porch, rifle across his knees. The cook stepped out beside him, apron still on, knife hidden in the folds. They ain't townsfolk, she said. No. Law. No badges. What do they want? Same thing everyone does. What ain't theirs? He stood. The riders dismounted. One walked ahead. Smooth boots, soft voice. Evenin'. Keep it short, James said. We're looking for property. Land's not for sale. Didn't say we were buying. James cocked the rifle. You sure you want to do this here? We've been watching. You're housing ghosts. Ghosts don't eat cornbread. Another rider stepped forward. Thin man. No gun showing. You harboring the widow? She's not yours to ask about. She took something. She left what mattered. The third rider circled toward the barn. James raised the rifle. Off limits. The cook moved. I'll handle it. He nodded. She disappeared behind the barn. The man with the soft voice smiled. You think you're protecting something pure? I think I'm done answering fools. You sure about that? The rider reached for his coat. The cook struck first. Flames shot up from the barn's far side. Dry hay soaked in lamp oil lit fast. Smoke poured. The rider near the barn coughed, staggered back. The horses bucked. Gunfire cracked. James hit the first man in the leg. The soft voice dropped. Another raised his pistol, too late. James fired once more, 2 down. The third ran for cover. The fourth stayed mounted, watching. The cook came back around. Smoke behind her. Knife, red. James walked straight toward the last rider. You part of this? The rider didn't speak. He reached into the smokehouse, pulled the old branding iron from the wall, held it over the flame till it glowed, walked slow to the man on the ground. You know this mark? The man spat. You don't get to claim nothing. This place is mine. This family's mine now. Ain't no law says... James pressed the iron to his cheek. The man screamed. Then brand me outlaw. The rider on the horse turned, rode off. James let the iron drop. Metal sizzled in the dirt. The cook stood still, breath sharp. The flames caught the edge of the barn roof. They worked fast. Buckets, dirt, blankets. Smoke curled into the sky. The children stayed inside, silent, except the smallest boy, who opened the door and watched. He looked at the bodies in the dirt, walked up to James, tugged his coat. Safe, he said. First word James ever heard from him. They buried the dead in a dry creek bed, shallow, no prayers, no stones. The cook washed her knife in the trough. You think more will come? Yeah. You scared? No. You should be. I am. They sat on the porch until the smoke faded. She held the iron in her lap, still warm. He lit a match. You ever used one before? Yes. On cattle? No. He looked at her. She looked at the sky. They used it on us, to tell who belonged. He nodded. Now it tells who doesn't. They didn't speak the rest of the night. Inside, the girl traced her finger along the boy's jaw, where the ash had settled, where no mark remained. But everyone knew. The boy wouldn't take off his shirt, not even to bathe. James noticed it first when he caught him washing at the trough in long sleeves. Quiet, careful, eyes darting to the porch where the others sat. He waited until the boy dried off, then stepped inside. What's on his back? The cook didn't answer. I seen the way he hides it. She wiped the table slow. You sure you want to know? I'm past wanting. She reached under the sink, pulled out a folder wrapped in oilcloth, set it on the table between them. What is it? Proof. Of what? She opened it. Yellowed papers, government seals, old staples rusted in corners. James sat. The top page read, Closed placement authorization, subject H147. She flipped to the next. Names blacked out, birth dates blurred. One had a photo clipped to the top. It was the boy. Where'd you get this? Stolen, years back, from a desk that shouldn't have existed. He ran his fingers down the page. Paragraphs of codes, transfers, clinic logs. You read all this? Every word. Who wrote it? People who don't sign their names. She turned to the last page. A wax seal stamped into the corner. An emblem. Sharp wings. 3 lines curled in a circle. Look familiar? She asked. No. She stood. Come with me. They walked to the bunk room. The boy was asleep on his side. She knelt, pulled the blanket gently, lifted the shirt. There, on the boy's shoulder blade, was the same mark. Not ink. Scar. Burned in deep. James exhaled slow. That's the same shape. He's not supposed to exist. James didn't speak. She pulled the shirt down, tucked the blanket back. They were branding them. Paper and flesh. To match. You think he remembers? I think it wakes him up every night. They stepped back into the kitchen. James looked at the folder again. What's this line mean? Trial placement failed. Reassigned. It means he bit someone. He stared at the date beside it. 8 years ago. How old was he? 5. James leaned back in the chair. You said they don't exist. None of us do. You got one of these? No, I was too old. They didn't brand staff. But you were part of it. I cleaned their floors, scrubbed their beds. You knew. I tried not to. He stood, paced the room once. They still running it? She shook her head. They moved it, rebranded, changed hands. Still the same people? Same blood, different title. He looked out the window. The barn sat still in the dark. You think they're coming? I think they're already close. He didn't sleep that night. Sat on the porch with his rifle across his lap. In the morning, he saw the dust cloud before he heard the hooves. Not one rider this time. 4 horses. A wagon behind. He stepped off the porch. The sheriff led. Behind him, a tall man in a long black coat, gray beard, hat stiff, cold eyes. They didn't stop at the gate. James raised a hand. Stop right there. The sheriff did. The judge didn't. This land's condemned, the judge said. Says who? County order. James spit into the dirt. Since when? Since the board met last week. No notice? This is your notice. The cook stepped out, knife tucked in her apron again. You bring a warrant? Don't need one, the judge said. Land's toxic, unsafe. Funny, we've been living fine. The sheriff cleared his throat. We know what's in that barn. You don't know a damn thing. 5 minors, unlawful shelter, 1 fugitive woman. Name her. She don't need a name. She's a stain. James stepped down 2 steps. You looking for a fight? No, the judge said. I'm giving you a chance. Chance for what? To leave it behind. James glanced at the cook, then at the sheriff. You always bring company when you lie? I bring law when I speak truth. James stepped off the porch, stood in the dirt. You got 5 seconds to turn around. You threatening us? I'm telling you, you ain't walking further. The judge signaled to the man in the wagon. He climbed down slow, gloved hands, tool belt, rope. Surveyor, James asked. Wrecker. James chambered around. No one wrecks anything. The cook moved to the barn, opened the door slow. The children watched. One of them cried. The girl took the youngest by the hand, pulled him inside. James turned back to the judge. You want something buried? That land belongs to the county now. No, it belongs to us. To ghosts and runaways? To people who lived through worse. You're harboring criminals. They were made into that. The sheriff stepped off his horse. You really want this to turn? It already did, James said. He stepped to the gate, locked it from the inside. The cook lit the first lantern. He lit the second. By dusk, the house was sealed, windows boarded, traps laid. The judge camped at the edge of the pasture. The sheriff paced. The children stayed quiet. The boy with the scar stood by the fire, shirt off. James knelt, touched the mark on his back. "You feel it?" The boy nodded. "What's it mean?" The boy whispered, "Hunted." James stood. "Not anymore." That night, the wind blew sharp. The rope snapped on the gate once, then silence. The stars above didn't move, and every soul inside that house waited for dawn like it was the last light they'd ever see. The first shot didn't hit anyone. It went through the pantry door and buried itself in a sack of sugar. The sound wasn't loud, but it split the house like a blade. The girl froze mid-step. One of the boys ducked under the table without a word. The youngest started to cry, but buried his face in his hands. James moved fast, knocked the stove door shut with his boot, and grabbed the rifle from behind the doorframe. He crouched low. "Cellar," he said. The girl nodded, pulled the two youngest. The floorboards creaked above the hatch as they disappeared. The cook didn't run. She stood by the window, holding a knife like it belonged there. "You hit?" he asked. "No." "You hear how many?" "3, maybe 4. He peeked through the edge of the curtain. "They're flanking. One near the barn." She moved toward the back of the house. Stay quiet like she'd done it before. "Don't do anything stupid," he said. "I'm not the one who left the gate unlocked." Second shot came through the window, glass shattering across the floor. It missed, but close. James rolled under the kitchen table and returned fire. 1 round, then 2. "Hit?" she called. "No, but he ain't standing either." A crash at the back door. Wood splitting. She waited, knife in hand. The man came through wearing gloves and a black coat. She didn't give him time to speak. Slashed across the arm, then again, deep into the neck. He dropped. She staggered back, blood on her chest. "You good?" James asked. "I need a minute." "You're bleeding." "Not bad." She wasn't lying, but she wasn't fine either. He pulled her behind the stove. "They won't stop. They never do." The front door blew open. James dropped another one with a clean shot to the chest. The floor was covered in boot prints, blood, and ash. "Where's the judge?" "Outside, I think. Watching." He growled low. "Of course." She pulled herself upright. "I got the cellar. You take the front. You can't hold the back with that cut. I've done worse with less." "You sure?" She looked him in the eye. "Are you?" He nodded once. Then a voice from outside. "James." "Sheriff Cadell." "You in there?" James didn't answer. "You bleeding yet?" Still no answer. "You want to end this?" "You the one who started it," James shouted back. "I ain't alone." "Neither am I." A pause. Then laughter. "We know." The fire spread from the curtain to the rafters. "We're losing the kitchen," she said. He dragged her toward the center room, smoke following them like a dog. The back windows cracked from heat. A lamp burst. James stopped. "We can't hold this." "Then burn it with them in it." "You ready for that?" "No." "But I'm ready to die on my feet." He helped her sit behind the table, pushed what was left of the cupboard in front. He turned to the children. "You stay low. You don't move till I come back." The girl nodded. The others didn't speak. They hadn't spoken in hours. Another crash. Another body. This one made it inside. James raised the rifle. Too slow. The man fired, hit him in the side. He fell hard. The gun slid across the floor. The cook screamed his name. She grabbed the poker from the stove, swung it once, twice. Third time caught the man's jaw. He fell on top of James. She pushed him off. "Can you move?" James tried. "Not fast." "We don't have time." "You gonna leave me?" "No." "You sure?" "I didn't stay this long to quit now." She pulled him up. He groaned, blood down his hip. "Cellar," he said. They limped together, past the table, past the smoke, past the fire eating the walls. She opened the hatch. The children looked up, eyes wide. "It's us," she said. They climbed out, one by one, even the youngest. "Where's the others?" "Gone." James touched the girl's shoulder. "You remember the trail?" She nodded. "You take the boys. Follow it. Go to Clara's gate. Tell Annie it's from the break." "You not coming?" "Later." She hesitated, then took the boys by the hand and slipped through the back door. James and the cook stood alone. The fire cracked above them. She pulled the knife again. "You got rounds left." The road wasn't marked anymore. The fence posts had fallen one by one over the years, swallowed by weeds and dry wind. Even the gate was gone, just rusted hinges and a hole in the grass where the latch used to swing. But the man knew where to walk. He held his daughter's hand, small fingers wrapped around his, warm and curious. "Is this it?" she asked. He nodded. It was. They stepped over a cracked foundation. The land smelled of sage, old wood, and something older. She bent down and picked up a piece of scorched stone, held it to the light. "What happened here?" "Fire." "Who lived here?" "Me." She looked up. "You lived in a fire?" "Before it." He let go of her hand and walked ahead, slow. Boots over roots. The earth, still soft in some places, burned hard in others. There was nothing left of the barn but a long shadow and a circle of nails in the dirt. He stopped near what had once been the porch, sat down on a chunk of the front steps. She looked around. "There's nothing here." "There's everything here." She brushed her hand across the dirt. A breeze moved through the grass. "Did you bury someone?" "No." "Then why come back?" "To remember." "Remember what?" "Her." The girl sat beside him, cross-legged. "Who was the woman?" He didn't answer right away. She waited. Finally, he looked toward the bare corner where a stove used to stand. "The cook." "That her name?" "No." "Was she your mom?" "No." "Your grandma?" "No." "Then who?" He looked down, picked up a pebble, rubbed it between his thumb and forefinger. "She was all of ours." The girl leaned forward, touched a patch of earth that looked darker than the rest. "Was this her kitchen?" He nodded. "She used to stand right there, always barefoot." "Why?" "Said the ground talked to her better that way." The girl giggled. "That's weird." "It made sense back then." She looked around again. "What happened to the others?" "Gone." "Where?" "All over." "You find them?" "Some." "Not all?" "No." "Why not?" "They didn't want to be found." She picked at the edge of a brick buried in dirt. "Were you scared here?" "Yes." "Were you happy?" He smiled. "Sometimes." "Was she nice?" "She was tired." "That's not an answer." He looked at her. "She was the kind of nice that only hurts after she's gone." The girl got quiet. The wind picked up again. He stood, brushed off his jeans, walked to the far edge of the property. She followed. "Where are we going?" "Someplace quiet." They stepped over broken stone, past what had been the smokehouse, past the old well, now filled in and covered with flat rocks. "Why is that sealed?" she asked. "Because what's down there stays down there." They kept walking. At the far edge, near a stand of dry trees, there sat a stone, simple, unmarked, half covered in moss. He knelt, brushed it clean. "What is it?" He didn't answer, just ran his hand over the surface until 5 small shapes emerged, handprints pressed deep, one beside the other. The girl stepped closer. "Are those yours?" "One of them." "Which one?" He pointed. "The crooked pinky. I broke it climbing the fence once." She traced the edge of the smallest hand. "This one's tiny." "That was Milo." "Where is he now?" "New name, new town. Probably forgets his own face." She looked up. "How do you remember all this?" "I tried forgetting." "Didn't work." The wind moved again. Light scattered through the trees. He sat beside the stone. "Tell me a story," she said. "What kind?" "One about her." He closed his eyes. She used to keep a ledger, not on paper, in her head. She knew every bruise, every lie, every promise ever made in that house. Didn't talk about them. Just cooked, swept, watched. The girl leaned her chin on her knees. "She sounded quiet." She was loud when it counted. He reached into his coat pocket, pulled out a folded cloth, hand-stitched, worn. "Still have this?" she asked. "Never let go." She opened it. A faded map, old trails, places stitched in red. Clara's Gate, Helen, Josie. Names of houses, women, places that took us in. Are they still there? Some are just ashes now. Some are churches. Some never were. She touched a place on the map marked only with an X. "What's this one?" "The Break." "That was this place?" He nodded. "Why call it that?" Because everything stopped chasing us here. She closed the cloth slow. Why didn't you ever build the house again? Would have felt wrong. Why? Because this house wasn't wood. It was her. The wind paused. The earth held its breath. He stood, looked out over the field where nothing moved. We all came from something broken, he said. She didn't try to fix us, just kept us warm long enough to stand again. She sounds like someone who should have had more. She didn't want more. She wanted silence. They walked back to where the steps used to be. The girl stopped near a patch of wildflowers growing where the porch had burned through. She bent down, swept a slow circle into the dirt. He watched. What are you doing? She used to sweep, right? Yeah. I'm helping. He knelt beside her. Together, they cleared a patch until the dirt showed clean. She stood. We should put something here. Like what? A stone. With her name. She didn't leave a name. Then we give her one. He smiled, slow. What name would you give her? The girl thought a moment, looked around, then pointed at the wind moving through the grass. Hope. He nodded once. All right. They stood in the circle of dirt. No fire, no curse, no running. Just a boy grown into a man, and a girl born far after the fire. The ashes didn't sting anymore. They just told stories. And some stories needed to be touched to be remembered. He didn't visit often, maybe once a year, sometimes less. But every time, something had shifted. The wind leaned in from a different angle. The grass grew taller near the old smokehouse. Once he found a child's ribbon tangled in a bush. Another time, a smooth stone shaped like an egg resting on the table stump, like it had waited there since the fire. But this time felt different. They slept under the open sky. No tents, just stars. The girl curled beside him, her small body wrapped in a blanket he hadn't washed in years. She asked him before sleep if the cook used to tell stories. He said no. She said that was a shame. By morning, the wind brought the smell of rain. He stirred the fire while she walked along the edge of the field, searching for anything lost. When she returned, she held a piece of charred wood. This part was blacker, she said. Like something tried to stay. He nodded. They tried to burn the whole place, but some pieces just refused. She turned it over in her hands. Is it okay if I keep it? Yeah, that wood's seen more truth than most people ever will. She tucked it into her bag beside the ribbon, the pebble, and a folded drawing she hadn't shown him yet. They walked east after breakfast. Toward the tree line, there used to be a fence, a well, a cross. None of it stood anymore, but he remembered where things used to be by the way the ground dipped under his boots. Was she buried? No. Then where is she? He stopped near a smooth patch of soil where wildflowers bent easy in the breeze. Here. The girl looked around. There's no marker. There never was. No stone. No name. She bent down and touched the earth. How do you know she's here? She never left. The girl took off her shoes. He raised a brow. What are you doing? She walked barefoot, didn't she? Yeah. Then I want to feel what she felt. He smiled. Sat beside her. They stayed there until the clouds rolled in, soft and gray. The rain didn't pour. It whispered, fell just enough to make the earth smell alive again. She tilted her face up and closed her eyes. I like it here. You should. It's sad. Good places usually are. They returned to the center of the property, where the last of the steps still crumbled near the edge of the old porch. The girl unpacked her bag and laid her things in a small circle, ribbon, pebble, wood, and the folded drawing. She opened it last. He leaned over to see. 5 stick figures. A crooked house. Smoke. A woman with a long braid sweeping the ground. 4 children at her feet, one standing off to the side. That one's me, she said. And her. She's not gone. He swallowed, looked away. The drawing shook a little in the breeze. She smiled in your picture. She should have smiled more. She didn't need to. Everyone else smiled because she was there. He took the drawing, folded it again, and tucked it inside the hollow of the porch stump. Someone will find it someday. And what'll they know? That a woman without a name raised a house full of ghosts and taught them how to be human. The girl stood and began sweeping the ground again with her hands, a slow circle, over and over. She swept like this, just like that. What was she sweeping away? Everything that tried to take us. What tried? Memory, shame, men with keys. Did she win? He looked out at the ash-covered land, now cracked open with tiny blooms and soft green grass. Yeah, I think she did. She kept sweeping. He looked toward the horizon. The wind carried the smell of distant cattle, wet dirt, and pine. The world hadn't ended. It had just moved on. He rose and walked toward the well. The sealed one, the one with the bricks still black around the edges. She followed, but stayed back a little. You ever open it again? Never. You still think about what's down there? Sometimes. Do you want to forget? He stared at the stones. No. Why not? Because forgetting makes it easy for it to happen again. She sat beside the well, picked up a rock, and traced her finger along its cracked surface. Did she ever cry? Not where anyone could see. Did you? Yes. When? After the children left. After the fire. After she said she wasn't scared anymore. What did that feel like? Like losing the only map I ever trusted. They sat in silence. After a while, the girl reached into her bag again, pulled out a small piece of wood and a black marker. I want to leave something. What kind of something? A name. She wrote slowly, tongue between her teeth. When she was done, she handed it to him. 4 letters written in a child's hand. Hope he looked at it, looked at her. You sure? She earned it. He stood, carved a hole in the porch stump with his knife, set the little board inside, then he stepped back. The girl reached out and touched his hand. You ready to go? No. But we will. Yes. Soon. Not just yet. They sat beside the foundation as the sky cracked open and a light rain began to fall again. She leaned her head on his shoulder. Tell me one more thing, she said. Anything. Was there ever music here? Once. When? The night after the fire. She hummed something. I didn't know the tune. Why'd she hum? To let the house know it was still standing. The girl smiled, then hummed something soft and made up. He didn't recognize it, but it sounded right. The wind caught the tune and carried it over the fields. No curse, no badge, no more fire, just memory, and 5 handprints carved into stone. The girl walked ahead, leaving 5 small prints in the dirt. He stayed back, looking once more at the stump, the sealed well, the open sky. There was no roof, no kitchen, no voices, but the house was still here. Just not in wood, not in walls. It lived in the memory of silence kept, of wounds cleaned, of names never spoken aloud. As he turned to follow her, the wind moved behind him like breath. He didn't say goodbye. He didn't need to. Some places say it for you. And some women never leave, even when they're gone.